Tonight's show is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika. Get ready to smile.
Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Welcome in, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. Really do appreciate it. While you're here, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck, and of course with your Atlanta Braves, who are coming off of a sweep of the Detroit Tigers. And of course, going into that series, we all felt like, hey, this could be a series where we see the Braves offense break out. This could be a potential sweep. The Tigers, not exactly one of the premier teams in Major League Baseball, but either way, the Braves are going to have to get it done to get it done. And that they did. They won game one, 2-1 with Max Fried on the mound. He pitched well. They win game two with Spencer Schwellen back on the mound. He pitched well. We're going to talk about him in a minute. And they won game three, 7-0 in a shutout win with Ronaldo Lopez tossing 5 scoreless innings with 6 strikeouts. So the Braves, I think, did very well. Some big notable moments. Forrest Wall had a big RBI back there in game one that gave the Braves a run that ultimately ended up winning the game. Sean Murphy goes 4 for 4 in the third game, 2 homers in that stretch. So a lot of positives, right? We saw Austin Riley continue to show that he's back and ready to play. I really think what stood out to me in this series was not only the offense, but the starting pitching. Max Fried, Spencer Schwellen back, and of course Ronaldo Lopez, all pitching very well. The bullpen looked good for the most part, and that was a nice change of pace. But the pace is about to change again because we got to take on the New York Yankees, and they're playing good baseball. Of course, they're taking on the Orioles right now, but we'll see what happens when the Braves take on the Yankees here starting tomorrow. Looking forward to that. But all in all, with this series against the Tigers, I think you're continuing to see the Braves show that, hey, it may not have gotten off to the best start. We may not have looked like the team we did in 2023 up here until June, but we're back and we're going to play for this division. That's the most important thing when you look at this team, because a lot of folks kind of, I'm not even going to exclude myself there, said, well, maybe this isn't a division winner. Maybe this is a wild card team. And that option is certainly there, and it's still possible that the Braves, are the wild card team. But I think in the Braves' minds, they're sitting there thinking, hey, we've won the division, a few years in a row, and we're going to do it again this year. And I certainly think that's where Brian Snitker, I think that's where his head is. I think that's where the coaching staff's head is. And that's where the players are too. And so what if they've lost, Spencer Strider, Ronald Acuna for the season? There's a lot of other players that can perform, and they are doing that. And we still have questions that will be addressed at the trade deadline, I believe, especially if the Braves continue to play like they played in this series. And look, all you can ask for is once we reach the trade deadline that, hey, the Braves get active and they go get and address those needs. We're going to talk about that later in the show, so make sure to hang around. We're going to talk about some of the guys who have stood out among some of the stars, some of the unexpected names in this team that have really been the backbone of this team so far this year. So we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the top priority at the trade deadline. Is it offense? Is it an outfield bat? Is it starting pitching? Is it relievers? We're going to talk about all of that, so make sure to hang around. But right now, what I want you to do is to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck, and of course with your Atlanta Braves. Got a lot of comments already tonight. Really love to see that. Jeffrey Humphreys, he's tuning in. Thanks for watching, Jeffrey. Corey Carter says Uncle Jesse is going to the All-Star game this year. I wouldn't put it past him. He's got one of the best stat lines I think he's ever had. If the fans can get behind him, I'm all for it. He's got a 1.21 ERA. He has been really good out of the pen at any time they've used him. And look, I would love to see Jesse Chavez make the All-Star team. He certainly has an argument right now. His ERA is solid. His just the way he's been on the mound this year has been really solid. He never plays any better than what he does in a Braves uniform, and he is showing it this year. Let's see who else is tuning in. Jake Hobby tunes in. Yasuke Knight tunes in. Scooter Puff says, hey, I like seeing the Orioles soften up the Yankees bullpen for us. Absolutely. That, of course, that's going to help us as we move forward across the next few games. And looking forward to face the Yankees. I think that's going to be a big measuring stick series for us to see kind of where we actually stand. The Tigers, anybody that's rooting for the Phillies is going to tell you, well, that series, that what does that really matter? You're just facing the Tigers. But I think a team like the Yankees, a team like the Orioles that we faced a few weeks ago, the Dodgers, those are the types of teams that if you can do well against them, you're a postseason contender, no doubt about it. Of course, we got 3 games against the Yankees, but then we got we have 4 against the Cardinals. So the Braves really have a chance. If they can stay on a roll right now, they really can cut that deficit of 7 games back even further. I'm looking forward to seeing if they can do that right now. They do sit second in the National League East behind the Phillies. Again, 7 games back. The Phillies have lost they've lost 6 out of their last 10. The Braves have won 6 out of their last 10. Of course, we get a game back with that numbers. But yeah, a lot of folks active in the chat tonight. Captain Spartan says, important question right away. Best donut places to try in Georgia, Atlanta. Going down Saturday to finally try Five Daughters Bakery. I've never heard of that. A lot of folks would tell you Krispy Kreme, but to be honest with you, the one around here in my neighborhood's not very good. We go to somewhere called Golden Donut. That's our hometown special. That's the place I like to go. So other than that, I can't really tell you. Jeffrey says it correctly. Like, subscribe, and share. That's right. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. But also, if you got a friend out there that likes the Atlanta Braves, if you got a friend out there that just likes baseball, share the channel with them. Get them to subscribe. It really helps us grow. And look, it's like anything else. If the friends you bring in are the best ones we're going to get. So make sure that they know about this channel. Miguel Freaka, another test for the Braves team. If the Yankees sweep them, then the Braves need to change the entirety of outfielders. Let's see. Well, we'll see. I don't think the Yankees will sweep. I'd be very surprised. I think there's a good chance they could win the series because I think these two teams are very similar and very on equal footing, if you ask me. I think it could go either way. I really do. It really depends who's on the mound. Going into this series, I guess I can tell you that real quick. Going into this series, I think the Braves are just trying to keep the momentum, trying to keep the winning happening, and that's easier said than done sometimes, especially when you face a team like the Yankees. But you'll have Chris Sale on the mound in Game 1. He'll be taking on Carlos Rodon. They got similar stats. Chris Sale 9-2 on the year, Rodon 9-3. Sale way higher in strikeouts, though, and a better ERA. He's sitting right at 2.98, and Carlos Rodon is sitting at 3.28. So, slight edge to Chris Sale there, but either way, both offenses are going to have their hands full for the first few innings. In Game 2, Charlie Morton is taking on Marcus Stroman. Again, a very equal matchup there. No real favorite. I think it could go either way. It's all about who shows up at the right day. Then Max Fried takes on Nestor Cortez there in Game 3. And again, you're talking about them coming off a series with the Orioles, us coming off sweeping the Tigers with a day in between. I give the slight edge to Atlanta, but I can also see the Yankees winning the series as well. So I think ultimately looking ahead, this was a really positive stride for the Braves to sweep the Tigers, get a game back on the Phillies, show that, hey, we're still coming for the division as we move forward. I like the 3 you got on the mound. Of course, Sale, Morton, and Fried to wrap up the series. You can't ask for much better than that in this rotation at the moment. But I like where we're at right now. I like where we're headed against the Yankees. I think we're going to do very well. And, after the Yankees, you got 4 against the Cardinals. That could be a time where that will be the time in theory where you see Spencer Schwellenbach, take some reps. And, of course, we'll see Ronaldo Lopez there as well. And we'll keep those guys going well because those 2 guys have been really good so far this year, and we're going to talk about both Ronaldo Lopez and Spencer Schwellenbach when we get back. So make sure to stay with us. Again, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and of course, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on right here at On Deck.
Are you ready to save big on a new GMC?
At Glynn Smith GMC in Opelika, you can own one of the best-selling vehicles in the USA. The GMC Sierra pickup is discounted up to $14,500 off. The roomy and comfortable GMC Terrains are up to $8,250 off. And the GMC Acadias with 3 spacious rows and seating for 7, discounted up to $8,000 off. At Glynn Smith GMC in Opelika,
Get ready to smile. Are you ready to save big on a new Chevrolet?
make your way to Glynn Smith Chevrolet. Choose America's #1 compact SUV, the Chevy Equinox, discounted up to $6,500 off. The powerful Chevy Silverados are up to $13,750 off. And the big Chevy Silverado 2500 HTs are discounted up to $6,000 off. Glynn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika.
Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, guys. Really appreciate you all tuning in tonight, of course, once again. And if you would, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff really does help us out. I wanted to talk about this tonight because I don't think it's been said enough. I mean, in certain circles it probably has been, but I don't think I've said it enough. I want to talk about the back end of the rotation really quickly. Reynaldo Lopez and Spencer Schwellenbach, because those two guys right now, I know Schwellenbach just got up, but just hear me out. Reynaldo Lopez specifically for a second. 157 ERA. All right, that is not only the best in the majors, but he's also got the best ERA plus in the majors. He's only got a 5-2 record. That's not too standout, but what do wins and losses mean anymore? Regardless of what he does this year, regardless of if he finishes the year like he's been pitching, what he has done so far, the impact he has had on this rotation, on this team, up until this point, has been nothing short of immeasurable. He has been a fundamental piece of this rotation when no one really expected him to be. If you throw it back to spring training, if you look back then and you realize what we were saying, what I was saying, what you were saying about Reynaldo Lopez, you were kind of scratching your head going, what are the Braves doing? What do they expect this guy to be? Like, do they really think this average reliever with a 4 ERA is going to be able to be a starting pitcher and be mildly successful? We find ourselves here in the later half of June, and he's one of our best pitchers so far this year. He's certainly had the best ERA. He's certainly been one of the most consistent, and that's not an easy task when your rotation consists of guys like Sale, Fried, Morton. You know, it's not an easy task to complement that, and he's been able to do it. So I really wanted to focus on it. I saw this today. Reynaldo Lopez is only the 7th Brave starting pitcher to throw 13 straight starts to open the season with 3 earned runs or fewer. Okay, 7. I'm sure you can probably guess who most of those are. One of them, the last one to do it, was back in 2010. It was Tim Hudson. So if that tells you anything as to where Reynaldo Lopez finds himself right now, he has been phenomenal for the Braves, and hopefully he continues to do so. And when you look at where we were before the season, where you thought we were going to have a rotation consisting of Fried, Strider, Morton, Sale, Reynaldo Lopez as possibly your 5th guy. Imagine, just imagine for a second, if Spencer Strider wasn't hurt, right? The Braves would have a premier starting 5. And that's not to say that they couldn't still have that, because we have to talk about Spencer Schwellenbach as well. Of course, Reynaldo Lopez had a great series against the Tigers. Spencer Schwellenbach did not get off to the greatest of starts. I will fully admit that. But since then, he's had 2 back-to-back starts that have been really good. In his last appearance, this is against the Tigers in Game 2, which the Braves ended up winning 2-1. He threw 6 innings with only giving up 1 earned run. That's pretty darn good, and that was more along the lines of what we were hoping he would be, right? Because in his first start, you know, it's hard to hold that against him. It's your first major league appearance. You throw one bad pitch, you hit a guy, and then all of a sudden you kind of lose it, right? Is that a defense? No, but what I'm telling you is he's bounced back, because that was his last start. The start before that, and this is for all you guys out there saying, okay, yeah, Tyler, he threw 6 innings, he gave up 1 run, but it's against the Tigers. Well, he also threw 6 innings pitched and only gave up 2 against the Orioles. So there's definitely potential there. Run support certainly helps, but the potential with Spencer Schwellenbach cannot be denied. The back end of this rotation is starting to show that it's got more depth than, frankly, I initially realized, and I would even argue that probably most of you initially realized, because where we find ourselves right now with this trade deadline looming, starting pitching may not necessarily be that big of a need. And that's not to say that it's still not a need. I definitely think at some point it will be. And going into next year without Charlie Morton possibly and without Max Fried possibly, you are in a bit of an uncertain situation. So I still think starting pitching could be targeted for the Braves at the deadline, but it would be a definite if it was not for the two guys I just mentioned, Ronaldo Lopez and Spencer Schwellenbach right now. And mainly Ronaldo Lopez, right? Having that fourth guy, the fifth guy you can kind of explore options with. Schwellenbach's been able to hold it down so far. And I'll be honest with you, I think we all thought that Hurston Waldrop would have been the guy between the two who would come in and be able to hold it. A.J. Smith-Shawver, has kind of been passed over and forgotten about it over the past couple of weeks. Not to say that he can't come back. I certainly think he can. What I'm telling you is the Braves have better options than what I think we initially thought. Because if you were asking me a month ago, I was going, look, we got to go get starting pitching because we're going into the offseason again with a potential of losing Charlie Morton to retirement and Max Fried to free agency. I was not so sure about the depth. Yeah, I knew we had Bryce Elder. I knew we had A.J. Smith-Shawver, but I didn't think we had any guys that were a professional pitcher that could help you right now, right? That could come up and be the guy that you trust your rotation in the hands of going into next year. You have Chris Sale, but other than that, what did you really have? Now we know, hey, we do have Ronaldo Lopez. That's comforting to know going into next year. And you also have this list of guys who you can either trade or you could, build the franchise around. Spencer Schwellenbach seems to be in the category of, hey, we're going to showcase this guy. We're also going to give him some experience. We're going to see what he is and if we want to keep him or if we want to capitalize on his success right now. And the Braves will have to decide what they do with that. But what we can say for right now is Ronaldo Lopez has had a great first half up until this point. I know we still have some time left, but you can't exactly argue with not only the best ERA in the rotation, but the best ERA in the majors. You cannot argue with that, and it's not a close lead. I believe he's got a 157 ERA. Ranger Suarez is in second, and it's like 175. So it's not like it's back-to-back. He has got the lead in the majors by a substantial margin. That's not to say it can't change. It definitely can. But what I'm telling you is I think that Ronaldo Lopez has came into this season wanting to prove that he not only can be a starter, but he can stay a starter. And I think he's certainly proved that up until this point. We'll see what happens. There's, over the next year, a lot can happen. But I think Ronaldo Lopez is just one of another of these many Alex Anthopoulos branded moves under the radar that turn out to be, man, where did this guy come from and who is he, right? And all of a sudden, here we are once again. When we get back, we still got to talk about the trade deadline. I know that's what you guys want to talk about. Get your theories in the chat. We're going to talk about them later on. But we're going to talk about what the priority is of the trade deadline. That way we can get our priorities straight. So before we talk about what you suggest, I want to make sure we got our priorities straight. That's coming up next.
Are you ready to save big on a new GMC?
At Glynn Smith GMC in Opelika, you can own one of the best-selling vehicles in the USA. The GMC Sierra pickup is discounted up to $14,500 off. The roomy and comfortable GMC Terrains are up to $8,250 off. And the GMC Acadias with 3 spacious rows and seating for 7, discounted up to $8,000 off. At Glynn Smith GMC in Opelika,
Get ready to smile. Are you ready to save big on a new Chevrolet?
make your way to Glynn Smith Chevrolet. Choose America's #1 compact SUV, the Chevy Equinox, discounted up to $6,500 off. The powerful Chevy Silverados are up to $13,750 off. And the big Chevy Silverado 2500 HTs are discounted up to $6,000 off. Glynn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika.
Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everybody. Do us a favor, for those of you watching right now live, do us a favor and like the video. It really does help us out and help us get to a wider audience, and all you got to do is press the like button. If you have not subscribed, please do that as well. We would certainly appreciate it. Now, the thing I wanted to talk about, of course, everybody's talking about the trade deadline, because why wouldn't you, right? We've been talking about it pretty much all year because of the losses of Ronald Acuna and, of course, even the earlier loss of Spencer Strider. It's been a topic of conversation with the Atlanta Braves for a long time, and that's not going to change until July 31st when the trade deadline is come and gone. So I think where we are right now, let's just take a second to appreciate the fact that Alex Anthopoulos does know what he's doing, right? When you look at the offseason, the vision for 2024 was clear to me, right? Okay, we got Strider coming back. You got Morton coming back. You got Fried coming back for this season. We're going to bring in Chris Sale to not only cover this year, but also the couple of years after that, because they knew going into that year that, hey, we may be losing Charlie Morton and Max Fried either to retirement or to free agency. So they brought in a starting pitcher to help, hey, not only is he going to be good for this year, but he's also going to help carry us into possibly the next generation of the Atlanta Braves. Then all of a sudden Spencer Strider gets hurt, things change, and you go from going into 2025 knowing that you're going to have Spencer Strider and Chris Sale and whoever else you've carried along and risen up in 2024, to now you only have Chris Sale and Ronaldo Lopez now that you are confident in. But the vision was clear, right? And to me, the vision was clear offensively as well, but we've seen injury after injury. We've seen, all these different things get in the way. The fact that the Braves are still in reaching distance of the NL East is appalling to a lot of folks, because a lot of other teams would have fallen off if this were to happen. I look back at 2023 where we won 100+ wins. We didn't have a ton of injuries, and even when we did, it didn't seem to interrupt quite as bad as this year has. But we also didn't face as many as we have this season. So when we look at the trade deadline, a lot of things have changed in the last month. When Spencer Strider first got hurt, I told you that I thought starting pitching has got to be top priority. Well, then Ronald Acuna gets hurt, and you begin to wonder, well, is it top priority? Because at some point you felt like Acuna and Austin Riley and Olsen would all break out. We've seen now Riley and Olsen are starting to. We've seen Sean Murphy starting to as well. And you begin to wonder, well, do we still need an outfielder? Right? And I believe the Braves could very well get an outfielder. I wouldn't be surprised at it at all. I don't know if it's top priority, but then again, to be honest with you, I don't know that I think starting pitching is top priority anymore. The reason that I believed and still do that starting pitching has got to be a factor here is that you're going into next year questioning what you're bringing back. And yes, you can do free agent signings in the offseason. You can make a trade in the offseason. You can handle that in the next offseason. But you're going to have to do two, in theory, at the same time, because you're losing, again, in theory, both Morton and Fried. That all goes out the window if Morton agrees to come back for one more year or if you re-sign Max Fried. But if we're a betting man, and I am, if you're looking at this situation and you're looking at the way we've handled free agencies before, I'm pretty convinced Max Fried isn't coming back. I could be wrong. I'm just pretty convinced that he's probably going to sign somewhere on the West Coast. That's kind of where I'm looking at it right now. With Charlie Morton, you just can't guarantee anything, right? And you're down your ace in Spencer Strider. You really are only bringing back, for sure, pending injury, Chris Sale and Ronaldo Lopez and whoever would follow down in the minors. So I think, to me, the Braves need to go get somebody for at least one as a starting pitcher. I think one would suffice, one that has an option for next year, because then you go into next year with knowing that you're going to bring back Chris Sale, Ronaldo Lopez, and whoever you would sign for that year. I've brought up a couple theories. You can all throw them at me if you want to. But that's the way I view this trade deadline. I think there's got to be a starting pitcher. Now, that really isn't even for competing this year. That's for next year and continuing this dynasty that the Braves have built. When you look at this season, there's a lot more that needs to be looked at, right? We can talk about the outfield bat. We can talk about the bench. I think you can talk about the bullpen a little bit. The Braves have had a pretty good bullpen, but without a doubt, they've taken some hits. A.J. Minter is currently injured. Tyler Matzik is injured, probably out for substantial time. I think that the bullpen could certainly use a boost. And you see that when you see guys like Raisel Iglesias giving up late-inning homers that you otherwise are unfamiliar with seeing. You see that when you see Joe Jimenez give up a 2-run shot the other day against the Orioles. I think the bullpen could always improve, right? And I think you can easily package a bullpen arm amidst another trade. So to me, I think if you can somehow package a starting pitcher with an outfielder or a starting pitcher with a reliever, I think you do it. And it may be at the cost of a Spencer Schwellenbeck. It may be at the cost of an A.J. Smith-Shawver. And it's really indicative of just whatever the Braves feel comfortable doing, they're going to do. If they can get someone or multiple people to help the team right now, I believe they're going to do it. We've already heard from Alex Anthopoulos that the Braves have been more active in searching for trades than ever before under his leadership. And that is not said without a purpose. He wants teams to at least take a look at what the Braves have to offer in the trade market. Some teams are going to want too much. I don't think Alex Anthopoulos is going to fall for that, but they're out there looking for good players. I wouldn't be surprised to see something along the lines of some kind of combination for a starting pitcher and a outfielder. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw some kind of, combination for a starting pitcher and a reliever. The one that intrigues me a lot that I've seen a lot of people talking about is Luis Robert of the Chicago White Sox. He's battled some injury this year, but we all know how good Luis Robert can be. And to me, I think he fills a void of a Ronald Acuna, right? And you're probably thinking, okay, well, what do we do with him next year? And I hear you. I hear you completely. He is not a free agent at the end of he's not a free agent at the end of this year. He's a free agent at the end of 2026, so next year. I think you could package some kind of deal with the White Sox where you get Eric Fetty and Luis Robert and you solve your starting pitching problem, you solve your offensive problem, and you solve your outfield problem all in one trade for two players. Now, in 2024, Luis Robert has got a 195 average. A lot of you guys are going to turn your nose up at that. Just keep in mind he was an all-star last year, and he finished the season with a 264 average. So it all evens out. He's only played in 21 games. So that doesn't necessarily matter. I'm telling you that if we can get Eric Fetty and if we can get Luis Robert, I think we should do it. Now, again, I say that. I don't know what they're trying to get us to give up, right? If they're trying to give up the entirety of our minor league starting pitching, then I might be a little opposed. But I think something like that would be good. Now, the other caveat to that is the Braves may not be the only team looking for that kind of package, right? And I doubt they are. I doubt that they're the only ones reaching out to the White Sox trying to get them to fire sale. I doubt that's the case. Everybody knows that the White Sox are one of the worst teams in baseball. Everybody knows that they could be picked apart. The White Sox know it too. And I think that, hey, if they can get him, if they can get him traded and get the most for him, they're going to do that. So it's easier said than done. And I'm not saying this is the trade that I think the Braves are going to do. I think it's a trade that they could do. And there's a difference there. And really, when you talk about trades, I could throw you a million different theories, and none of them are going to be more legitimate than any other because it's just that. It's a theory. It's everything sounds good when you start talking about trades. And I try to avoid getting you too excited about it or putting up a thumbnail that's clickbait, right? And, sometimes you have to do it. Sometimes you have to talk about it. But I try to give you a realistic expectation. Luis Robert and Eric Fetty would work wonders for the Braves, but there's a lot of other, teams that you could do a trade like that. And it may be multiple trades across different teams. There's also the idea that, hey, we're not going to just trade for Eric Fetty and Luis Robert. We're going to get Eric Fetty, and then we're going to go get, Brent Rooker or whatever you want to do, right, with the A's. I think that there's a lot of different things that can happen. The key here is that I think the Braves are going to prioritize a bat and starting pitching. And I've changed my take on that because originally I told you, look, we don't need a bat. Our offense is set. That was before the Acuna injury, right? Things, of course, changed. I always thought that the Braves offense would break out. They're too good not to. But with the Acuna injury, I think there's definitely a spot for an outfielder because right now Michael Harris is hurt. Jared Kelenic is taking over in left. Duvall's in right. And really, you have this rotation of guys that are coming in filling the need. JP Martinez, Forrest Wall. Glad he got an appearance, by the way. Really happy to see that. Super nice guy. Interviewed him back in spring training. Hard worker, has worked on his swing, and it has shown. So very happy to see him performing where he is right now, and happy to see him in the big leagues, getting the shot he deserves. But that said, if you're looking to upgrade, the outfield's definitely one you're going to circle. And I think ultimately the Braves are going to look for a bat, but I think they're also going to have to look for a starting pitcher. And again, not for this season, but for next. So we'll see what happens. I think a lot of things can happen. I'm expecting, it's hard to expect what happened in 2021 where you had just all of a sudden, you got Jock Peterson a month before the deadline. You got, Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario, Adam Duvall, Richard Rodriguez in one felt swoop there at the end. That to me is expecting a lot, but I definitely think you could see some kind of quick, oh my gosh, they just went and got everybody. And it may not even be blockbuster names, right? Let's be honest, Eddie Rosario at the time did not sound like that big of a deal. And by the way, we traded Pablo Sandoval for Eddie Rosario, fun fact of the day. That didn't seem like that big of a deal at the time. All of a sudden, he's your NLCS MVP. Jorge Soler was on fire with the Royals, right? But he didn't seem like a huge get on name value, right? You're not getting a Carlos Correa or, just this big name with big money, but you're getting someone who can perform just as good when needed. And Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario were able to do that. Jock Peterson, and I would even argue Richard Rodriguez at the time seemed like the biggest moves. Richard Rodriguez was killing it as a reliever. He gets to the Braves and he kind of fell off. We all know about that. That's not the point. What I'm saying is some of these moves that are made at the trade deadline may not seem like a big move, but wait till October and we'll see how big they are. That's the way I feel about it. I think there's a lot of things that can happen. I think a lot of different moves can be made. I see some folks pointing out Kevin Pillar. We talked about that on Sunday night. I don't hate the idea of Pillar. I'm not against it at all. I don't think he's a starter, though. I don't know I know he's raking right now. I don't know that you bring him in and expect Ronald Acuna numbers. Then again, it could be the Alex Anthopoulos trade of the year. I mean, there's a lot of ways it could go. I mean, as a guy who's watching it and seeing how it's folding out, and, as a guy who frankly likes Kevin Pillar quite a bit, I just don't know that that's the move. I would love it to be, but I just don't know that it is. Either way, I think that, again, our priority at the trade deadline, without a doubt, is starting pitcher, outfield bat. That's our priorities. Anything other than that is gravy. If you can get a reliever or two, even better. With the limited amount of prospects we can trade, I don't know how well we're going to be able to factor in and land guys without just flat out the other team cutting costs. I don't know how well we're going to be able to negotiate, but we'll see how it plays out. When we get back, we're going to get to the rest of your comments, and then we're going to wrap it up. So make sure to stay with us. Make sure Super Chats do get priority, and, of course, make sure to get your comments in. I'm going to answer as many as I can, as quickly as I can. So make sure you get them in, and we'll talk about it right after we get back.
Are you ready to save big on a new GMC?
At Glynn Smith GMC in Opelika, you can own one of the best-selling vehicles in the USA. The GMC Sierra pickup is discounted up to $14,500 off. The roomy and comfortable GMC Terrains are up to $8,250 off. And the GMC Acadias with 3 spacious rows and seating for 7, discounted up to $8,000 off. At Glynn Smith GMC in Opelika,
Get ready to smile. Are you ready to save big on a new Chevrolet?
make your way to Glenn Smith Chevrolet. Choose America's #1 compact SUV, the Chevy Equinox, discounted up to $6,500 off. The powerful Chevy Silverados are up to $13,750 off. And the big Chevy Silverado 2500 HTs are discounted up to $6,000 off. Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika.
Get ready to smile.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for being here. Really do appreciate it. Really do appreciate you taking the time to watch us, and hope you've enjoyed the show. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and of course, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay updated with everything we got going on here at On Deck. Let's go ahead and get back into the comment section. We took an early comment section look earlier for whatever reason, but we're going to get back into it right now. I'm going to stay, and let's go to... Oh, Lord. Let's go to, you know what, we're just going to jump right in. Scooter Puff says, if we can take 2 of 3 in New York, we'll be sitting really pretty. The Cardinals are probably the most inconsistent team in the entire league, and then we have a gimme in Chicago. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, the schedule always evens out. That's what I was talking about early on in the year when the Braves were playing the Dodgers and the Orioles and, you know, just the teams that were killing us. And I was like, well, you know, we're getting them all back to back. The Phillies are going to have to play some of these teams at some point. And I think we're about to start seeing that a little bit more. I mean, we're going to have a long stretch. We got to face the Yankees, but then you got the Cardinals and the White Sox. So, you know, I think there's a lot of time left this season. I certainly don't think it's over. 7 games is certainly not 10.5, and I think it's definitely something that we can deal with for sure. Captain Spartan says, with Willie Mays passing, a recent debate I'm seeing is, who do you think is the greatest living baseball player? Who do you think it is, besides Chipper, of course? That's a good question. You know, a lot of folks are going to say Barry Bonds. I see Corey Carter there. It depends what you like. You know, I think there's a lot of good answers out there. Some people would probably say Ken Griffey Jr. Some people would probably say, you know, I don't think Cal Ripken Jr.'s a wrong answer. I think, you know, with the Iron Man legacy he left, you know, I mean, Miguel Cabrera's the last Triple Crown. I'm kind of looking around the room here to kind of get some ideas. You know, the greatest living baseball player. I mean, Hank Aaron was it to me. Willie Mays was probably it after that. I mean, it's hard. I mean, if you're just, it depends what the criteria is, right? Because if it's pure just what they did on the field, it's Barry Bonds. There's no arguing that to me. But when you take into account other stuff, to me, I'm going to go Cal Ripken Jr., which is probably controversial, but you know, the ability to play every day, that matters a lot to me, and just your character matters in this game. I don't think Cal Ripken Jr. is a bad answer. Ken Griffey Jr., for a lot of people, he was probably the guy in the 90s outside of Bonds, you know. You know, Chipper, as a Braves fan, the answer is Chipper. You know, he's, you know, Chipper or Dale Murphy. But I would, to me, as of right now, as just an outsider baseball guy, I'm going Cal. I don't think that's a bad answer. You know, there's a lot of them that could be it. I see Jeter is being brought up. I would disagree. Koufax, that's a very good one. Koufax is a very good one. I was thinking position players. Albert Pujols in his prime. You know, there's a lot of them. I think Griffey Jr. is probably more along the lines, but for me, I'm going Cal. But I mean, it's just your opinion. At the end of the day, it's just your opinion. Scooter Puff says, as long as Schwelly holds up, I really don't think we need to go after much pitching. The main need in a power bat is the outfield, I'd say. I agree with you, but I'm again, not only looking to this season, I'm looking to next, and I think that the Braves could land a starting pitcher for probably not all that much at the trade deadline, which is kind of what I'm hoping they do. If they don't do it, we'll have to see what happens comes the off season, because you'll have the potential negotiations with Fried, you'll have the potential retirement of Charlie Morton. You know, we'll just have to see how it plays out. But I would be surprised if they didn't at least try to get some kind of starting pitcher. And to get a starting pitcher, you may have to trade one, right? I mean, we'll see how it goes. Let's see. Jake Hobby says, I hope to see this against the Yankees. Not extremely excited right now. I think you should be excited. We're coming off a sweep. You got some of your best guys taking them out against the Yanks. You know, Chris Sale, Charlie Morton, and Max Fried. You know, it doesn't get any better than that when it comes to the Braves right now. So I think that, you know, if I'm picking a favorite, you're rarely going to hear me pick anything other than Atlanta, if I'm honest. But I would be surprised if the Braves didn't pull out this series. Corey Carter says, is the Waldrop injury suspicious? I don't know about suspicious. I mean, you know, I don't know. I'm not there every day, so it's tough to know. I wish I could tell you more, but let's see. 3 days ago, Braves, this is from Fansided, so take it with a grain of salt, but Braves hide scary Hurston Waldrop injury update and series of roster moves. So let's see. They place. I just want to make sure I got my facts straight. They rushed him to the big leagues without a second thought. He was drafted less than a year ago. His promotion did not go as planned. Let's see. He's on the 15-day IL with elbow inflammation. After initially being optioned Sunday, he told trainers he was more sore than usual. So, yeah, I mean, it would be more suspicious if they just said he was on the IL, but with him already being optioned, I don't really think it's that suspicious. I mean, from a team perspective, I don't know what other perspective it would be. I don't think it's that suspicious. I've seen far more suspicious ones. Just listen to AJ Przinsky on his podcast talk about his suspicious injuries. Hato Mato says, Lopez is the steal of the offseason. I think so too, and I think second place is Chris Sale. Just like Yasuke Knight says, I think both of those two guys were steals. I think Kelenic was a steal. You know, there's a lot that we could look at, but I think you're right in saying Ronaldo Lopez so far has been the steal of the season for sure. Scooter Puff says, I still can't believe we conned Boston into going 1-for-1 Sale for Grissom. I love Vaughn, but OMG, what a con job. Well, yeah, I mean, look, Vaughn had a lot to offer. You know, he's a good talent. I mean, he's not a bad player at all. But it wasn't even that we didn't want him. Like, if Arcia wasn't around, he'd probably be still in the Braves. But his defense lacked, and that's really all it was. And we didn't need him because we had Arcia locked up for 3 years at a very affordable rate. You know, and we needed a starting pitcher, so we traded him for Sale. I don't have a problem with it. And, you know, for the Red Sox, you know, you win some, you lose some. We want it. That's really all that matters is that we want it. Yeah, Corey Carter says we need a left-handed outfielder and a lefty reliever. I agree. I still think we got to get a starting pitcher. I mean, I just, to me, that would be nice. It may not even be top priority. I just feel like we need it going into next year. Let's see. Captain Spartan says, what do you think is the biggest what if in Braves history? Like Soroka never getting hurt or Bonds almost becoming a Brave? Soroka never getting hurt is a good one. The biggest what if in Braves history? What if we drafted Todd Van Poppel? For you younger folks out there that don't know, Todd Van Poppel was the top prospect in 91? I think 90. And we drafted a young man named Larry Wayne Jones, who became Chipper Jones, of course. And the history was made from there. Todd Van Poppel never even made it to the majors, I don't believe. So, yeah, what if we had drafted Todd Van Poppel? Would things have changed? Would he have been a Hall of Famer? Corey Carter says, I don't think you can say we stole Sale until we know what Vaughn is. Remember Doyle Alexander for Smoltz. Doyle finished the year pitching great for Detroit. Smoltz was terrible at the start. I agree. I mean, we haven't really seen Vaughn play out. And we knew he had a good bat. You know, I think Vaughn's a great talent. I still do. He just couldn't help the Braves at that moment. And I think even the Braves felt that way. Like, man, I hate to lose this kid because he's a good kid. Number one, he's a good kid. Number two, he is a great athlete, and he's able to put the bat on the ball at a great rate. But at the same time, it's a business, and you had to make a decision for what you needed right now. Let's see. Captain Spartan says, current Braves question. Does Bryce Elder or Dylan Dodd really have any value? I know you brought up the 2021 trade deadline, but you just don't know if anyone would actually value them besides them just being arms. Well, here's what I would say to that. And it's a good point you're bringing up. It's not wrong because you're looking at Elder, who can't seem to navigate the major leagues this year. Dylan Dodd, who hasn't seemed able to break out. And this isn't even necessarily indicative of who they are right now, but a lot of times when you're trading, you're not trading future talent for current talent. And what I mean by that is just because, okay, for example, the Christian Pache and Sean Murphy trade a few years ago, right? Or yeah, was that No, I'm sorry. The Christian Pache trade to the A's for Matt Olson, right? Christian Pache, we all thought was going to be a prospect one day. I think we had kind of all figured out he wasn't going to be what we thought he was going to be at the time. I think we all kind of figured that out, and we were okay with that trade completely. But in large part, a lot of folks thought that, hey, Christian Pache could very well be the next big thing, and I think maybe even the A's thought that. But a lot of times, Aaron Bummer is a good example of this. A lot of times you're trading for, just giving them numbers like the White Sox. A lot of times you're trading just to allow the other team to cut costs. So you're not sending your best guys, if that makes sense. You're just sending guys. And I'm not saying that Bryce Elder and Dylan Dodd are just guys. That's not what I'm saying. I still think there's potential there. And I think that's one of the negotiating factors is, hey, look, I know they're not doing great right now. Bryce Elder, though, if you work with him, if you give him time, which your organization can provide because you're not competing right now, he could be an all-star. And you know why I know he could be an all-star? Because he was one back in 23. That's how you negotiate it. Dylan Dodd, hey, look, we haven't been able to give him the exposure to the major leagues that you guys can provide for him. White Sox or Oakland Athletics or, whoever else may have a losing record right now. That's my point, right? Like, it's not always, hey, we have this super valuable prospect that we're going to give you, because those are the guys you want to keep, right? Those are the guys, in large part, you want to keep, right? It stunk to get rid of Shea Langoliers. It stunk to get rid of William Contreras. I know William Contreras isn't a prospect, but that's my point. But we were able to get a Sean Murphy. A lot of times you want, especially pitching-wise, you want to keep your prospects. The top guys, the guys you believe in, you want to keep. And I think the top guys we believe in right now are probably Hurston Waldrop and Spencer Schwellenbach. But that would make it a lot easier to get rid of a Bryce Elder because you have those guys. It all depends on the makeup of the teams and what the teams are willing to do and what time you find them in, right? Because the White Sox right now, it's a cluster, right? I think we all are aware of that. They are probably in the business of cutting costs, right? They signed Tommy Pham at the beginning of the year purely to sell him off at the deadline, right? For more than, that's what that was. And to get prospects to trade him for, basically, and to sell him off so they didn't have to pay him that much. They are in rebuild mode, right? They have a terrible record. They are having a terrible season. They are in rebuild mode. Teams like that, they want to do two things, get prospects and cut costs. And a lot of times when you trade prospects, again, it's not about them actually getting the prospects, it's about them cutting the cost. So we'll see what happens. I still think the Braves have plenty to trade and plenty of chips to put in the pile, but we'll see how it goes. I got to be kind of quick here. Let's see. Mark Narmore says, hey, Tyler, I like Kelenic hitting leadoff. He's a gamer. I completely agree with you. I think he's proven himself to be what we thought he could be with the adjustments made here in Atlanta. I definitely think he's starting to prove that. Matty F's, because it is the Angels, look at Sale and almost everyone else that comes from a terrible team to Atlanta. Yeah, that's true. Captain Spartan says, are Angels and Astros the most realistic trade partners, with Ron being with the Angels and Dana Brown also knowing some of our players? I think that helps, but I don't think it necessarily invokes a definite trade. It may be an easier phone call because there's that familial relationship. but I don't know that it necessarily guarantees that the Braves are going to have the inside track to the Astros or the inside track to the Angels. I think you're more likely with the Astros there, but even then, the Astros are only in second place and they're only 8 games back. I hate to break it to everybody. That's basically where the Braves are. So they may not be in a sell mode, right? I don't know that they are. I think if anybody's in a sell mode, you're looking at the Angels, who are in 4th place and 13.5 games back. So there's a lot of different ways it can go. In terms of, that may be something with the Astros in a few years that, hey, they're not doing well. They're in rebuild mode. And, Dana Brown knows us. He knows our players. He recruited our players. At one time, I brought that up on this channel. But as we've gone further, the Astros have pretty much solidified they're not selling unless it just completely goes off the rails. And right now, they're kind of where the Braves are. They're in second place. They're 8 games back. The Braves are only 7 games back. So it's not like they're in a huge different, zone there. I don't know that they're necessarily going to sell. The Angels are more likely to sell, but Ron Washington is the manager. He's not the general manager. I mean, he's got some say, but I don't know that necessarily translates all the time. Now, that's not to say that if the Braves called the Angels saying, hey, we want Kevin Pillar, and the Angels said, okay, well, it may help start a conversation because it's Ron, but I don't think it's going to be like super, I just don't think it's going to be super impactful in those conversations. I'd be surprised. Let's see. Jake Hobby wants to know what happened to Drew Waters. Oh, Drew Waters. Let's see what happened to Drew Waters. He went to the Royals. I believe he's still there. Yeah, he's still there. He played as late as June 14th at the Dodgers. I'll look up his stats for you. He's got a 125 average, 125 on base percentage. He's only had 8 at-bats this year, though, so, it's tough to say. He, in terms of stats, he's had 3 years in the majors, 22 through 24. I'm looking for what we got here. He flirts around 230 batting average, and usually hits. He got 8 homers in 23. So decent player. I don't think he's as good as what we were all hoping he would be as a Brave, but let's see. Can we trade for Ron Washington? I don't think so. Mark Narmore says, I thought Smith Shawver pitched fine. He gave up a homer, but who hasn't? Yeah, it's not a knock on Shawver. I told you 2 weeks ago even, whenever he first pitched, it was like, man, like that was great, that was phenomenal because he pitched and gave the Braves a chance to win, and that was something we weren't seeing with Bryce Elder, who got the first opportunity. It's just unfortunate he got hurt, and now we got Spencer Schwellen back on the mound, and until he just shows that he can't do it, I think they're going to give him every chance possible. Same would have been the case had Hurston Waldrop proven himself. Now you've had back-to-back starts where Spencer Schwellenbach has given you 6 innings pitched with 2 or less runs given up. Can't really ask much more than that. Scooter Puff gives an update on the Orioles and Yankees. 16-5 Orioles right now. Ooh, like that. Yanks are likely to throw a position player up in the 9th. Yeah, it may be a tired Yankee bullpen, but it may also just be, hey, we're gonna throw in the towel and not use our pen. So we'll see what happens. But guys, with that all being said, I really appreciate you being here tonight. Appreciate you getting your comments in. Appreciate you be a part of the live stream. I've got to make a run. I got a jet, but I really appreciate it. And again, if you could, please, for us, if you like the content, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications. And of course, if you like the content, you need to go check out my friends at Glenn Smith Chevrolet, GMC, and Opelika. They have been great sponsors to us. They present this show. They help make this possible. And a lot goes into this. I know, it's really easy to watch it on YouTube and not know what all goes into it, but we do on-the-road shows. We do all kinds of stuff. They help with equipment costs. They help with all that. So really thankful to have them on as a sponsor. Go check them out. If you're looking for a new vehicle, www.glennsmith.com. Please go give them a look. And tell them I sent you. Let them know that you know me, and they'll be real happy about it. But with all that said, guys, thank you so much. We will see you next time right here at On Deck, Sunday night at 8:15 p.m. We will be here. I believe that'll be following, will that be following the Yankees series? Let's see. I don't know. Yeah, it will be. Yankees at 1:35. So we'll be following that again. Sunday night, 8:15 p.m. Eastern. We will be right here. That's 7:15 Central for all you Alabama folks. With that said, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time right here at On Deck.
Baseball fans, make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. As always, thank you for your support.